So, having said all of this, we do get started. We have a bit of a stretch. Everything at your own pace, please do. Take yourself maybe into either child's pose or any restful posture. Maybe even just sit back, have a drink, maybe even just go to an open window where there's a bit of a breeze if it feels a bit too hot. But otherwise, I keep it quite gentle, still a bit of movement, maybe a bit of strength as we work with that solar plexus element on the around the navel area. So we will be doing some side stretches more to get that heat out of the body, and probably helps us to adjust and feel balanced in that heat that is outside. So enough said. Let me just going to mute you. So we need perhaps a block to start it. So come onto your mat. We are starting with, we're not remaining completely still. Perhaps have a blanket also quite close by, as we may need it as we progress. So have your knees bent and stretch your arms up overhead. Have a good stretch, maybe even a little bit of a wiggle. So, and keep a soft position with your arms. So the elbows can be a little bit more bent. Perhaps the backs of your palms the backs of your palms are on the floor. Just taking a couple of breaths here, lengthening through the spine, noticing how you feel. So let the breath come in through your nose and out through your nose to start with. And with your next inhale, we draw the breath in. Let it flow all the way down to your belly button area. On the exhale, kind of expel it out through a wide mouth. Perhaps even imagine your dragon spewing fire. So let that heat escape your body. Inhale through your nose. Exhale out through a wide mouth. Perhaps even feeling the belly button drawing back down towards the spine. Couple of breaths here. Inhale through your nose. Exhale, spew it out. Good. Last one here. Inhale through your nose. Exhale, spew it out. Good. Take a moment to center. Perhaps even keep your jaw open. Maybe just wiggle your upper and your lower jaw. Maybe even stick your tongue out. Draw a funny face. Pull perhaps squinchy face, sad face, angry face. So employ those facial muscles to release some tension and maybe lingering around your jaw. Lovely. From here, walk your feet a little bit closer towards your bottom. Knees about hip distance apart. On the inhale, stretch your arms up overhead. And on the exhale, bring your arms forward. Lift your hips up towards the ceiling. Bridge pose. Inhale, lower arms reach up, hips down. Exhale, press into your feet. Arms forward, hips lift. Feeling perhaps a stretch for the neck. So a few rounds here. Inhale, lengthen. And exhale. Shift the hips up. So a couple of rounds here at your own pace. Lengthen. And lift. So if you feel you want to stay up for a little bit longer, perhaps press your palms into the earth as your palms and your feet are the foundation. Breathe into your front body. And at any point, again, continue with that movement pattern. So hips down, arms overhead, lengthen. If you lift your hips, maybe you actually want to hold on to the outside edges of your mat as if you're tearing that yoga mat apart, which may give you a little bit more of a lift. And at any point, soften, release, hips down, arms overhead. Maybe you even sit one or two movements out, keeping your bottom on the floor, keeping your arms stretched over, just taking a few breaths here. So I'll give you perhaps 5 more rounds to play with, whether that's more dynamic or it's more static, whether it's a static hold in bridge pose or just a static kind of hanging out on the floor. So building strength, but also stretching through the front body. The belly gets a good stretch, your thighs, your hip flexors. Good, keep it soft without kind of perhaps only using 80% of effort today instead of 100%. So see if you can tone it down a little. So and then literally arriving with your hips back on the floor, arms stretched up and over. So optional here, you may want to stay here, hug your knees in towards your chest, keep them perhaps hovering. Maybe you want to extend your feet up overhead. So arms can be again up overhead. If it feels better to have them out to the side T-shape, feel free to do so as well. So having the feet up, both feet up, lengthens the lower back again. You can flex, point, circle your feet, can wobble both legs. So at any point you may want to move your arms if it feels more stable to bring them alongside the body. So perhaps move into a bit of a scissoring of your legs. So the left leg moves over towards the right leg. So there can be a generous bend in your knees. So just to move the hips and create a bit of a stretch through the outer thigh. The hands can even rest on your belly or they hold onto your thighs. Good, so there's no right or wrong. So sometimes having the feet up, the legs up in the air is nice to, especially after on a hot day like this, perhaps a little bit later in the day, just to let that fluid drain back out of your legs. So last scissor here. And then hug your knees into your chest. Let them hover here. Maybe rock from side to side. If you want, maybe curl together like a little ball. And then release the upper body down. You might want to do it a couple of rounds. Lift and lower. Rock from side to side. Good. Good. And then from here, roll over to your right side. And use the blanket underneath your head. So that your neck is not too strenuous. So that your head is in line with the rest of your spine. Both arms out in front of you, knees about 90 degrees bent. So we are open, we are stretching through the front, through the chest. Only inhale, begin to bring your arm up and over. Slowly move it back as you move into a twist without dropping, without kind of bringing the left shoulder down completely. And then bring your left arm forward again. So open and close. So you're lifting the left arm up and over. So keeping a soft stability through your body. Maybe it actually feels good keeping that arm, kind of letting that arm hover in space, the left arm. So my left shoulder doesn't touch the floor, just the stretch is happening through the chest. Maybe take a few breaths into that sensation on the left side. Maybe explore lengthening, moving your arm, perhaps bending that elbow. So just explore a little bit of that openness you create for the chest. At any point you can move forward again, lean forward again onto your side, and then open here again. So we're not completely rolling into that twist where the shoulder is on the floor. Maybe keeping those shoulders stacked and just the left arm leans back, causing a bit of that squeezing together feeling between your shoulder blade and the spine. So perhaps do even a couple of arm circles if there's space, if it feels okay. So keeping that elbow soft, that arm soft. So explore different ways of moving with gravity here. How does it feel taking that arm and elbow back? Maybe it is a nice sensation, clearing a bit. Clear out some cobwebs that may give you that impression things are a little bit stuck. Good. And with your next arm circle, this time actually roll onto your back and let your knees, let your legs naturally adjust. So maybe the left hip draws a little bit back, maybe your head actually comes off the blanket. So arriving in that twist. Your left arm can be on the floor, but your left hand can also actually rest on your left rib cage. So between the rib cage and your hip bone. And then direct that breath into your hands. If you have the hands resting on your belly, on the side body, if you're having the arms stretched up and over, visualize you're bringing the breath into the left side. So with lots of heat in the body and also outside, twists bring calming qualities into the body, into the mind. So stay for 3 more breaths on that left side. So again, less achieving, kind of just more settling into that pose, seeing where it takes you. And let the breath unfold. Good. With your next breath, roll back onto your right side. And use your left hand, press your left hand into the earth as you slide your left leg back, as you come up into that 99 position, into more of a seated position. So we are kind of breaking it down before moving on to the second side. So as you come here, you slide your left leg back and literally remain in that posture, maybe with a little bit of adjustment. So exploring here, a bit of movement. So perhaps you lean forward to the sides, back. So a bit of hip mobility, a bit of a stretch. So explore where it takes you again. So if you move more into a twist, keep the length in your spine. So even as you lean forward, maybe over to the left side, maybe it feels a bit stuck, that's normal. So come back without causing any pain or aggravating anything that feels already a little bit tense. So explore. Maybe even using your arms as well, leaning over towards the left, perhaps even leaning over towards the right. So a bit more experimental movement, exploring, still stretching, but without straining the body too much. Maybe even hang out here for 1 or 2 breaths if that feels okay. Or continue that more dynamic movement. Good. Maybe even bring your opposite arm, left hand to the right shoulder as you look over your right shoulder. So see how that feels. Maybe even left palm onto your right shoulder, and vice versa. So keeping the length. Good. And then finish that movement wherever you are. Roll onto your bottom as you bring your knees up towards the ceiling. Move into a bit of that windscreen wiper knees from seated, taking the feet perhaps as wide as your yoga mat. So explore perhaps the inner thigh stretch. Maybe let one knee take the lead and the other leg follow. Using your upper body perhaps as well as you bring your knees to the left, your shoulders point more towards the right. Good. And find that stillness as you stay in that posture. Squeeze the shoulder blades together as you lift your chest, and then relax the upper back. So squeeze them together, maybe have a bit of a wiggle, perhaps circling the shoulders. Good. Anything that feels good, maybe leaning back. So whatever the hand position is, like they could be pointing, facing, or the fingertips can be facing back towards you to the sides. So find a way that feels good. Maybe bending the elbows, leaning back, stretching through the back. So explore different ways to stretch the upper back. Good. And then from here, bring it back to stillness. We are in that position. Bring your hands onto the backs of your thighs. Still tapping into a bit of that heat without perhaps aggravating it too much. So optional here, you can just bring your hands down and lay down, or you may want to just slowly release back onto your back. Good. So meeting back onto your back, second side. So you roll onto your left side. Again, use your blanket for your head. Knees are bent, left arm out in front of you, right arm on top. So head should feel comfortable, that you're not overstraining the neck. And again, move into that right arm stretch. So creating more of a sensation for your chest, through the shoulders, perhaps maybe keeping the rest of the body exactly as it is, and just move your right arm forwards and backwards. See where it takes you. Maybe let it hover here, soft bend. Creating more space for the chest, through the top arm, perhaps feeling those shoulder blades. Drawing a little closer towards that spine. Breathe. So avoid coming into a twist just yet. So keeping the shoulders stacked on top of each other. Just the arm, a little bit like a lever, just opens and closes. Stay if that feels okay. Feeling the weight of that top arm, drawing you back. If it's too strong a sensation, so tune it down a little bit as you come back out of that stretch, or continue more dynamically. Maybe from here, move into that arm circle. So exploring that range of motion as the elbow drops back. So the moment we stretch those pectorals and the chest, or the chest muscles and the arm, the breathing, the respiratory muscles actually get more nourished. They work optimally. So especially important in that hot weather where breathing probably feels restricted anyway. So take 2 more arm circles. And then with your last circle, naturally roll into that twist, glide into that twist as your chest this time opens up towards the ceiling. So let your right hip maybe even also settle back a little bit. Your head can remain on the blanket or come off the blanket. So your right arm can be where it is. Maybe you want to move it and bring it between your rib cage and your right hip bone. as you direct the breath into the right side. So imagine you're attempting to blow up that balloon in your belly again. So the air on the inhale expands, and on the exhale, it deflates, it contracts. So it helps. Those twists are quite nourishing for the digestive systems. The inner organs, they help that squeeze and release to bring nourishment into the organs, into those cells. Let's stay for another 3 breaths. Good. And with your next breath, roll onto your left side. Bring your right hand into the floor. Slide your right leg back as you lift up into that 99 or deer position, actually. So again, adjust. Maybe you can bend your knees a little bit more. Keep your hips as they are. So settling into a little bit of that stretch here. Use your hands to navigate from side to side. So perhaps a little bit back, keeping the length in the spine. So if something feels a bit unfamiliar, a bit strange, come back to it at a later stage. Good. So exploring, leaning, and using your top arm as well again. So leaning over, creating more that side stretch. As you bring the torso back, explore just that release through the left and through the right side. So at any point you can hold the breath or the stretch, not just the breath, hold the stretch a bit more, breathing into the sides. Good. Maybe moving more into a twist as you bring your left hand to the right shoulder and your right hand to the left shoulder. So, and explore. Maybe come back to anything from the very beginning as you want to lean forward, stretch out. Good. So the spine loves the diversity and movement. Good. So especially today, we are still doing something, not too strenuous, but more of a stretch, given or we take almost advantage of the body being a little bit hotter and the muscles are a little bit more pliable. Good. Last exploration here. And then roll onto your bottom. Knees are bent. So feet, bring them to the outside edges of your mat. Again, those windscreen wiper legs. It's a bit of a twist as you may bring your upper body in the opposite direction. Perhaps create a bit more of a stretch through your inner thighs as one leg leads, the other one follows. Good. So massage the glutes in that process. Good. And then moving into stillness again. So once more, a couple of shoulder rolls. Explore, maybe a bit of a wiggle, perhaps leaning back, lifting the chest. Using your own body weight in different ways. Perhaps even just staying here as you breathe, feeling into the stretch in your upper arms. Good. Lovely. And then come into stillness. So bring your upper body up as your knees out in front of you. Once again, tapping into the core. Hold on to the backs of your thighs. And keep the length in your spine as we move into boat pose. So you may want to come onto the tips of your big toes. Perhaps you hover here. Maybe you perhaps even keep the soles of your feet on the floor. Maybe you extend your arms away from you, holding yourself here. So it all requires that core strength. You can slowly build up depending how you feel. Maybe waving with your legs, perhaps keeping them still. So if you feel adventurous, maybe pretend you're rowing the boat. You can even keep your feet on the floor. So you bring your palms together as you move from side to side. Lovely. And at any point, come out. Woo, lengthen, stretch out, release your neck, release your head, have a bit of a shake. Good. And then from here, roll over to one side and we meet back in tabletop position. So you can use the blanket for your knees. Otherwise, keep it again quite soft. Perhaps sway your hips from side to side. Rock back, tailbone towards your heels. Explore, wiggle perhaps a bit like a worm. So coming closer towards the earth. Coming up. Rounding perhaps the spine, moving naturally into those cat and cows. Good. So do anything that feels good in the body, that brings you a stretch on the back body, maybe stretch on the front body as you keep your spine slightly more arched. Inhale, you swim through. Exhale, you round your spine and push back. So 2 more here and we meet a neutral tabletop again. So from here, bring your left hand in front of your right hand. Let your palms actually point towards the long edge of your mat. You may want to walk them in a little bit more. And from here, round your spine and push the bottom slightly back. So you may hover here. So it's more of a stretch through the side body. And then find your way back up into tabletop with your back still pushing up towards the ceiling. And then dropping the belly down, cat pose. It's a cow pose. So the tailbone lifts, chest lifts, rounding the spine, chin towards your chest as you stretch through the left side. Maybe you want to keep that rounding in your spine as you take your bottom slowly back. See where that stretch feels the most maybe satisfying. Coming back up to neutral tabletop. Walk your hands back towards the center. Have a little bit of a wiggle. Second side, so your palms, your hands point towards the left side of your yoga mat. Rounding the spine with your X on the exhale. And slowly take your bottom towards your right heel. Lengthening through the right side of your body. Let the breath flow into those areas. And then coming back up, dropping the belly down, lifting the chest. Good. Last one here, rounding, pushing your hands into the floor, slowly taking your bottom back. So leaning and stretching through the right side. And then find your way back to neutral tabletop. Perhaps come onto your knees, maybe shake your wrists out, depending how it feels. Good. So you may want to bring them a little bit in the opposite direction. So whatever feels good without too much weight bearing. Good. From here into downward dog pose if that feels okay. So you may want to lift your bottom up, stretch out, walk through your feet, your calves. Perhaps even take your hands and feet to either side of your mat. Be like that seesaw. Swing your bottom, shift your weight from side to side. So it's more of a stretch. So don't think about if you're in that perfect alignment, perfect shape. So enjoy that experience of the stretch. Good, and then come back onto your knees. Taking perhaps a couple of breaths in child's pose. So keep your knees perhaps a little bit wider. There's enough space to breathe, so it doesn't feel too hot, doesn't feel too compressed. Maybe even the bottom stays up a little bit higher. Whew. Perhaps inhaling through your nose, exhaling out through wide mouth. Lovely. Last breath here on child's pose. And then back into downward dog. So from here we're transitioning into standing, but you can stay for a little bit longer in a forward fold if you feel like hanging out in that forward fold a bit more. So bottom shifts, lifts, maybe perhaps even circle in downward dog. So make it accessible. Bring your chin towards your chest to lengthen and release through the neck, and then move into that standing forward fold. Maybe floppy arms, soft knees. Again, think 80% of practice, so not 100%. So everything just being toned down a bit. And then slowly roll up to standing. Maybe take it in stages, given blood pressure, temperatures. You're transitioning up to standing. Good. So maybe have a drink or a bit of a stretch, just arriving here. So, given I kind of know the crew here today on the screen, and I don't know, do you all have a block? Just checking. I know could work. You could also take the wall, Fiona, or if you, in case you don't have two blocks, then because you could also do the wall. So I'll show you where we're going in a minute. So from here, bring your left foot forward, right foot back, warrior two pose. So again, take it a bit easier to settle into that stretch. So maybe even bring your arms out and let them float down. Inhale, warrior two, exhale, arms down. Looking over your left middle finger. So still keep more awareness on your knees. So don't allow your body to be completely floppy. So bring that knee ideally over your second, third toe. Good. So keeping in line with a few more side stretches. So warming up here. Good. And the next time you come into warrior two, stay here. Straighten your front leg. Shift the right hip back as you lean forward. You reach forward and tilt your left hand towards your left thigh. So two options for your arm. Your right arm can be on the lower back as you turn your right shoulder back, or you lengthen your right arm up towards the ceiling. Triangle pose. So we're breathing into that side body. So your head can look down towards your left foot. You can have a soft bend in your knee. Maybe you want to bring that right arm up and over. Good, couple of breaths here. And then bend through your front knee as you swing your right arm back and bring your left arm up, lean back. So again, that side stretch here. You can come back to center, maybe seesaw between those two postures without staying too long, perhaps bending on the front knee, coming back up and go in the opposite direction. Good. So you can choose where you want to stay for a little bit longer and have your core engaged at all times as you sway between those two postures. Lovely. So from here, arrive back, land back in warrior two. So I show you where we're going. So with the block, or you can also take the wall if it's close to you. So coming into half moon pose, which is kind of cooling quality. So I'll show you first. So you can step your it should be a bit weight bearing. That's why I'm saying with the perhaps take the wall. Step your right foot in as you keep your hips aligned to the long edge of your mat. Bring your block down as you lift that right leg. Keep your right foot flexed. You can also use the wall. So you use the wall, lift that leg off the floor. It's completely fine. So we are lengthening here. You can step a little bit away from the wall, can bend your front knee, and avoid having your hips pointing down like warrior 2, like warrior 3. Bring your hips, stack your hips on top of each other. So with the block down, you can find that lift here. So a little bit of a experimental pose. Again, you can always use that wall if you have one. So you can even turn away from your mat. Have your left foot pointing towards the wall as you lift your right hip off. So your hips stay stacked on top of each other. So it's a nice way to practice. So it actually helps you balance and strengthen that hip, the right hip. Good. So let you explore, experiment here, and flex that right foot so there's not too much of a hanging here. You can always lean back, push back. So from here, you may want to then let go of your hand. Good. Good. Okie doke. Half moon pose. Lovely. Opposite side. So right foot forward, left foot back. We start again with warrior 2. With just the setup, just that sensation through your hips. So I thought I'd bring a bit more playfulness in, given I know the crowd on the screen. So right arm forward, and then perhaps lengthen as you inhale and release your hands down as you exhale. So let your knee still point forward. Maybe there's more of a kind of sensation in your inner thigh. Good. So keep your gaze perhaps looking forward at all times. So looking over that right middle finger, which may not always be there. Good. Last one here as we land back in warrior 2. Settle here, strong legs, and then straighten both legs as you tilt your left hip back. You reach forward with your right arm, lean forward or lean towards the side so the hips, your shoulders are stacked on top of each other. Your left hand can rest on your left hip. Breathe into that side. Alternatively, you may want to bring the arm up or even over your head. So bringing it over your head deepens that side stretch. So hips are stacked on top of each other. One more breath. And then swing your left arm back as you bend your right knee, straight legs. Seesaw back as your right arm lifts and you lean back. Good. So change between these two. Leaning forward towards the front leg, more of a side stretch. Bend your front knee as you shift back up, reverse that warrior. Good. One more on either side. Triangle and reverse warrior. Good. Blending back in warrior 2. So you may want to then, so keeping the feet in that same position. So you may want to step your left foot in as you slowly bring your hand down onto the block or perhaps onto that wall as you lift your left leg and flex that left foot. So your hips are literally pointing towards the long edge of your mat. You may even want to do a floating half moon. Even perhaps bending the leg, exploring how does it feel lifting that left leg off the floor. So at any point you can use the wall. So keeping those hips stacked on top of each other. Alternatively, that's another option to try, is you can actually do it the opposite way. You can bring your foot back against the wall. So it actually feels like you're really floating. Almost feels, oh, you could maybe write a message. So it gives you that support, gives you that kinetic chain is closed as you're still balancing on that standing leg. So you could use your hand as well as that foot. So still here, and then perhaps releasing your leg. Good. Good balancing. Whew, lovely. Come back out. Or if you want to do it as homework, you can always try float in half moon through space. Good. Bring your hands onto your hips. Just get the booty circling. Maybe more for the hips, bending for the knees. Maybe there's a bit of a crack for your feet. Good. Lovely. Shifting here. Perhaps even leaning slightly forward, slightly back. So explore movement. So motion is lotion. Good. Oh, lovely. And then from here, bringing it slowly down. So maybe you want to actually move into a bit of a forward fold. You can take your feet a little bit wider. As you breathe into the backs of your hamstring, you can keep your body more parallel. So the bottom reaches back as your chest lifts. Almost like a tabletop back. So someone can put a teacup, maybe a piece of cake on your back. So a few breaths here. Maybe slowly work towards lowering your upper body, perhaps even releasing your neck, releasing your head. Breathing in and maybe exhaling. So think of that dragon spew it out. Or even sticking that tongue out. Good. And from here, walk your hands back up your legs as you come up to standing. Ooh. Lovely. So back towards the floor. Optional here, depending if you're hot or not. So you can, I'll show you a couple of alternatives. So you can roll down into downward dog. You can be in downward dog if you feel like, oh, you've got a bit of energy to burn. You move between plank and downward dog. You can also walk on the spot as you cross your left foot over your right foot. Maybe you want to lift one leg. So options. Otherwise, if it's too hot and you feel, nah, not for me today, come straight into tabletop or even child's pose. So a couple of options here to explore. Even if you're in child's pose, keep enough space so it doesn't feel too hot. Maybe the bottom floats up a little bit, hovers. So you're at home, no one sees you. So always make sure that your forehead or your head is supported. So if you're in child's pose, stay for another 3 breaths in child's pose. Good. And then from here, from child's pose, slide onto your front. Oh. So keeping your forearms on the floor. So arriving in Sphinx pose. So just stretching out through the front body. So that gives you maybe a nice release also for the back. So if it's too steep of a back bend, move your forearms perhaps a little bit further away from you. So just that your chest lifts, your rib cage lifts. From here, you may explore lengthening, straightening your elbows as you draw the navel in. Lengthen, bring your arms down at any point. Maybe make a cushion for your forehead to rest on, wiggling through your hips. So for your deep belly breaths, you can come back into Sphinx pose. At any point. Softening here. So exploring. Stretch through the front body. And then once more, bringing your palms down, forehead down, wiggling through your lower back. Take a few deep breaths into your belly. And let that breath move into your lower back as well. So softening here, cooling down. And from your position on the front, walk your feet towards the bottom right-hand corner of your mat. And also move your upper body into the top right-hand corner of your mat. So we are literally in that half moon position, just on our front. Stretching more for the left side of your body. So stay and stick with those deep breaths as you feel that expansion, that inflation through the belly. Bit of a lift, and on the exhale, softening, lowering. Two more breaths on the left side. And then walk your feet back towards the center of your mat. Walk your upper body back. So stay for a few breaths as you're aligned, you're central again in the center of your mat. And then the second side, walk your feet towards the bottom left-hand corner of your mat. So you may feel that stretch through the right waist. And then adjust, perhaps lift your torso, your upper body, also arrange it into the top left-hand corner of your mat. So if you look at yourself from the top, there's a slight kind of crescent moon shape of your body. So bring the breath once more into the right side of your body, maybe more the waist. So a few long, full, complete breaths here. Good. 2 more breaths. And then release your feet, walk them back towards the center. Arrange your upper body back in the center of your mat. Take a moment to settle into the neutral position again. And from here, roll onto your back. So exactly where you are. And just letting the knees hover over your belly. So without doing anything, just perhaps a bit of a rock through the lower back. If you wish, you can curl together like a little ball. You may want to stretch your legs up towards the ceiling again, so that lengthens, flattens the spine from the tailbone towards the back of your head. So just to bring length in again. Good. And then from here, roll over to your left side. Maybe bring that block in between your knees. So moving into a deeper stretch, a deeper twist, and then roll that right shoulder back. So we're finishing with one more twist where the knees remain this time stacked on top of each other. We're having that object between your knees. The spine twists, they neutralize the spine. So feel the breaths, full complete breaths. Good. And with your next inhale, roll back onto your left side and then remove the block. Roll all the way onto your back, hugging the knees in towards your chest again. So then over to the second side, roll over onto your right side, recovery position. Bring that block between your knees and then roll that left shoulder up and over to the left side. So letting the body naturally settle here. A few slow, deep breaths. Perhaps breathing this time onto the left side where the spleen and the pancreas are located. A couple of nourishing breaths. Two more breaths on the second side. And then bring your left arm up and over. So you're on the right side. Remove the block. Roll onto your back. Maybe hug your knees in. Let them rock. Let them hover. Maybe bring your nose towards your knee. And then stretch out or remain where you are. You can even roll back onto your front if you wish, onto your side. If you're on your back, allow the feet to roll out open, perhaps arms a little bit further away from your body. sense into your body. Eyes can be closed, or you can have a soft gaze. If your knees are bent, let them knock against one another so the feet are wider. That helps flattening the pelvis or bring the pelvis into neutral. So let each exhale feel the whole body with a bit more heaviness. So you sink a little bit deeper into the floor. So with every inhalation, maybe visualize a cooling color. Perhaps it could be blue or any other color you associate with coolness, with freshness. It brings a bit of colder air into the body. And as you exhale, visualize you're breathing out a warm color, any color you associate with heat. Perhaps red, perhaps orange, maybe purple. So whatever color works for you. So visualize you're drawing in coolness with each breath. And let go any excess heat, any warmth in the body through your exhale. Sensing sensations in your feet, your shins, your calves, your thighs, your pelvis, and your lower back. Soften your rib cage, your upper back, backs of your shoulders. Let that heaviness move into your upper arms, forearms, your wrists. Just focusing on the breath coming in and out through your nose. Sensing the coolness against your nostrils. Exhaling, releasing that warmth out of your body. Your whole body is at ease. Your breath is quiet. Your mind calm. And with your next inhale, bring deeper breaths back into your whole body. Invite them into all the different parts of your body, from your toes, into your knees, your hips, your shoulders, your fingertips. Bring movement into the rest of the body. Maybe even rocking your head from side to side, stretching your arms up overhead. And then begin to hug your knees in towards your chest. Have a little rock from side to side. And then roll over to one side. As you slowly make your way in your own time back into any seated position. So if you want to stay on the floor, that's absolutely fine. So you can rest even further. So bring that positivity, that stretch, maybe a twist, maybe that weird half moon wobbling into your life. So feel free to experiment with more at home. Then bring your arms up again. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, draw the good stuff back into your heart center. Bow your head towards your heart. Thank yourself for making time this morning. Namaste.